The arrival of the Skeleton Crew show brought with it a mysterious new world called At Attin.
Tell me then, Captain, which one is At Attin?
Which on the surface looks to be like any other planet, however in reality that couldn't be further from the truth.
Lost planet? Eternal treasure?
With the planet's very existence potentially set to play a key role in Star Wars past, present and future.
We all have a place in the great work.
So jump onto your speeders and hold on tight because we've got 3 equally compelling theories on what's going down. Before we jump in, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's video if you enjoy it, and remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to catch more of our Skeleton Crew and wider Star Wars content. Now with all that out of the way, let's get into the mystery of At Attin.
It's At Attin, where we just were.
Can't say I remember no At Attin.
How does he not know? Try searching your memory bank's last location.
Searching.
Skeleton Crew introduced us to a group of kids that live on a remarkably Earth-like planet called At Attin, where for the most part, they lead normal suburban lives. However, that's all turned upside down when their yearning for adventure leads them to what they believe to be a lost Jedi temple, when in actual fact, what they've stumbled upon is a pirate ship that blasts them past the barrier and into the unknown. Now, during all of this excitement, some key details were revealed about the planet they call home. Like the fact the planet is surrounded by the aforementioned barrier, which appears to be a swirling green nebula dotted with red lights, which are most likely satellites. With their presence so strong, those that inhabit the planet aren't actually aware of what real stars look like.
They're stars. I didn't know there'd be so many.
We also know starships are banned from breaching either side of the barrier, which effectively prevents anyone from getting in or out. And this is something that's seemingly enforced by the planet's security droids that have heads shaped like security cameras, just so you know without a shadow of a doubt you're being watched. It all sounds pretty grim, a little bit like a prison, but the mystery deepens once the children manage to venture off-world, which was by accident rather than design, and they try and spend some of their lunch money, which turns out to be Old Republic credits, no longer in general circulation of course, and what's more, the children are laughed at when they're asked which planet they're from that spends what is now considered a valuable antiquity as spare change. It turns out their boring suburban homeworld is none other than what's known as the fabled lost planet of eternal treasure, a place not seen in so long its very existence is now considered somewhat of a myth. Perhaps this is the exact reason why people aren't allowed to leave. You see, if we take it back to the careers meeting Wim and Neil recently attended, Under Secretary Ferris states that their careers will aid the great work of the Republic, not the New Republic, which would be the correct name for the government in place during this point in the timeline. The Republic of course fell with the rise of the Empire. The New Republic itself is a completely different entity that really just upholds the values of the Republic that came before. Anyways, putting 2 and 2 together here, it's becoming pretty clear now that this planet at some point in the past, which we're going to get onto, disappeared from the rest of the galaxy, and the fact they're still using Old Republic credits suggests it happened at the very least 30 years ago, as that's when they left circulation, and this is also evidenced by the fact the Jedi are still well known to these children.
You said you wanted to be a Jedi when you grow up.
What? No, I didn't.
Whereas Luke, 9 years ago, didn't know all that much about them, and Rey, 25 years into the future from now, believed them to be just a myth. However, it's also worth considering the fact this planet now, just like the Jedi, is also considered a myth itself, which tells me that it's actually been gone for far longer than 3 decades, which then begs the question, who would want to hide an entire planet, and why? Now there's actually 3 different paths we can go down with this question, and naturally, it's the usual suspects that are first to come to mind, so we'll start there. Our good old friend Emperor Palpatine, who's almost been involved in every major galactic event that took place over the course of his life. And in fact, even right now during the Skeleton Crew show, he's kicking around on Exegol. And this is a character that Star Wars has been trying to fill in a lot of the backstory for of late, in an attempt to explain how he returned in the sequels.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
So it's not totally out of the realms of possibility that At Attin is all a part of that. Look, you've got a prominent figure here who was very high up in politics during the time of the Republic, and at night he was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so if anyone in the galaxy's gonna have the resources to pull off this kind of stunt, it would most certainly be him. And when you take into account how he was always planning for his eventual demise and the fall of the Empire, which is also evidenced through his cloning projects,
The future of this empire.
and the construction of the Final Order over on Exegol, for him to have an entire planet that, by the way, is apparently a treasure trove stashed away, It actually makes complete sense. If the Empire ever fell like they have now, you'd need a vast amount of resources to bring it back, parts for the ships. There would be an astronomical cost involved. As you know, even in Star Wars, it doesn't come free, so he would need and likely plan for a way to finance it. However, if we once again go back to the short amount of time we've spent on At Attin so far, the clue to the planet's mystery might actually be found in Under Secretary Farrah's speech to the class, where she states that all citizens of the planet, whether they be children in education or adults in the workforce, they're all contributing to the Republic, calling it all a part of
The great work.
Now, the great work is actually a term we've heard in Star Wars before, and it may just perfectly fit in with the mystery unfolding right now. Many centuries before the rise of the Empire, a Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, called Lina Sol, conducted various experiments to ensure the peace she and the Jedi Order brought to the galaxy during her term would survive. Now, such experiments included the Starlight Beacon, which was explored within the High Republic novels, and this is also called a piece of the Great Works. So the idea here is the planet of At Attin completely disappearing from the galaxy is just another one of those experiments, essentially freezing its civilization and potential treasures in a time of everlasting peace. And besides, the fact Lucasfilm have been putting a lot of time and effort into trying to get the High Republic off the ground of late, so it makes sense that they'd want to put a reference for it in here. It also means Emperor Palpatine and the Empire likely never discovered it, leaving it untouched, and on the flip side of that, it means those on the planet never knew of the Republic's fall and the Great Jedi Purge. And this not only explains the continued use of Old Republic credits, but also the reason the Jedi are still well known on the planet, even being the subject of children's stories, whereas in the rest of the galaxy, they're now just seen as a myth after the Empire went through great lengths to wipe any memory of them away. Now we have to ask the question, just what impending threat could the Republic have been considering going through the drastic lengths of hiding an entire planet, effectively imprisoning its inhabitants in the process, which really goes against everything they claim to have stood for. And that brings me on to the third and my personal favourite theory of the bunch, which I also see as being the most likely, which is there's no outside involvement in the planet's disappearance at all. Not from the Republic, nor the Empire. In fact, the decision likely came from At Attin's own governing body some time ago. The fact they're still using Old Republic credits and reference to Republic rather than the recently formed New Republic leaves open the possibility that they cut themselves off from the rest of the galaxy at some point between the rise of the Empire and the creation of the Jedi Archives, all the way back some 25,000 years ago. You see, for this planet to now be considered a myth,
You're a couple of Linderlings from the lost planet of eternal treasure.
rather than a real proven location, its coordinates can't be on the Jedi Archives or really any other star maps currently in existence, meaning there's a real chance this place has been gone for a seriously long time. And although they likely took the decision to protect the planet from the dangers of the wider galaxy, perhaps also sensing a change in the direction the wind was blowing with the Republic and the Jedi, which ultimately turned out to be correct, the fact of the matter still remains in that the citizens of the planet are effectively trapped there, and what's more, they're constantly being monitored by the security droids and encouraged to not think that far outside the box. Now let's just be clear here, I don't think the droids themselves are actually aware of what's going on, and neither are the officials or even those lower down the pecking order, but still considered fairly high up like Fern's mum under Secretary Farrah. Instead, I think this is a decision that comes from the very top, from individuals the citizens themselves probably aren't even aware of, and perhaps there's also some truth in Fern's story where she told Wim about the one kid that missed their careers assessment and was sent down to the mines never to be seen again.
Yeah, right. It's so made up.
She's already known as someone who likes to make up stories, but I think this one might have some truth behind it. And if the story of the planet holding some kind of eternal treasure turns out to be true, maybe the reason those in control decided to hide it from the rest of the galaxy was so they could excavate it themselves without being interrupted. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to find out the Skeleton Crew show has its own type of oppressive government in place which the kids, likely with the help of Jude Law's character Jod, will need to take down. The show's already given us strong nods to the originals, especially with its opening scene, but I wouldn't be totally surprised to find out this is the case either. So whilst the mystery of the Skeleton Crew show continues to unravel with At Attin, it's clear there's so much more to this story than we initially thought heading into it. A brand new planet being introduced to Star Wars isn't something new. There's new planets in almost every show, however, you'll be hard stretched to find one with the significance to the galaxy's past, present and future that At Attin potentially has. Whether it be one of the Palpatine's many projects, some of which we're still yet to hear about, which will be used as a way to explain how he managed to create the Final Order, or potentially even fund the First Order from the shadows, to the planet being something of an experiment of the Republics from a distant time, that as things moved on, all outside knowledge of what's happened to At Attin has been long forgotten. Or perhaps there's a good intention, but also Empire-like entity there looking out for our own interests. at the detriment of its people. Regardless, the planet is clearly a treasure trove of knowledge, if not anything else, trapped in its own pocket of time away from the struggles of the galaxy around it. So whichever theory holds true, I'm pretty sure we're not too far from the answers. All it'll take is for someone to recognize the ship they're traveling on, as I think it probably will turn out to be a legendary story in itself, a little bit like Blackbeard in our world, or even SM-33 to just scan his memory banks for the last recorded event prior to waking up and encountering the kids. If he can remember any locations or notable people he interacted with, or even a well-known galactic event that perhaps took place not that long prior, they'll be able to figure out how long the ship's roughly been buried on a planet, which might give him a clue as to how long it's been since At Attin cut itself off completely. I really do think the answers are right in front of us with this one, we just need a little more information to figure them out. Anyways, what do you think has happened to the planet which resulted in its very existence becoming a myth? As always, drop your thoughts, theories and wildest speculations down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on the video if you've enjoyed it, and remember to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to catch more. I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you.